Do the Broncos have a QB on their board that no one has mentioned? And tell me if you've heard this before. Nathaniel Hackett was lacking in detail. And what were some of the best responses when asked why people would buy a Russell Wilson jersey for 90% off? Welcome to your Denver Sports Daily for February 1st. Let's go.
Taking you through your morning headlines, it's Denver Sports Daily with Rachel V. Hill.
Breaking news coming out this morning is Dan Quinn is expected to become the next head coach of the Washington Commanders. This is interesting because I feel like a few weeks ago we all heard that he was planning to stay with the Cowboys. Obviously, I think that the Commanders have a lot to work through up there, and I personally have sat down with Dan Quinn a long time ago now at this point, but I know that he's got a good head on his shoulders, and I think that he will lead the Commanders to some success, but also they're pretty high up in the draft. So are they going to stick with Sam Howell or are they going to go after a QB? That will be the question that many people, especially Broncos country, will continue to ask what Dan Quinn decides to do. The Broncos have had a couple of interviews with Tulane quarterback Michael Pratt. He is one of 7 QBs out at the Senior Bowl this week. Peyton obviously has some deep ties with college programs in Louisiana, including Tulane. And it was hard for the Broncos to move into the top 3 with Chicago, Washington, and New England. Obviously, Williams, May, and Daniels in that top list for quarterbacks. But this one kind of caught a lot of people by surprise considering he's had 2 interviews so far with the Broncos. Pratt spoke to the media with our very own Andrew Mason.
I think that would be awesome. I think that's something that I excel in is my intermediate pass game, being consistent, that kind of stuff. So, just from what I have seen from his style of offense, it's something that I feel like I'll definitely fit into really well.
Have you spoken with the Broncos yet in this process?
Yes, I had a couple interviews with them.
What did you think of how those went?
It went really well. A lot of just background stuff, getting to know him, kind of person, support system, all that kind of stuff. So it's been good.
Where will Russell Wilson land? It's going to continue to be a conversation for the next couple of months, but ESPN's Jeff Saturday thinks Russell Wilson could end up in Pittsburgh. Wilson could work well under Arthur Smith, the OC over there. His offense, they want somebody who can play under center, play action, and is a veteran QB. Could this be where Russell Wilson finds his next home? Let me know in the comments how you feel about Russell Wilson to the Steelers. I find it to be very fascinating. Now, tell me if you've heard this one before. Nathaniel Hackett was lacking in detail. The Athletic puts out a huge article talking about Nathaniel Hackett, and it was described by multiple coaches and players. He was waiting for last-minute prep when it came to the entire offensive staff. Now, here's where things really get interesting for me. Aaron Rodgers, was immediately given the reins to Hackett's offense. Are we surprised? We kind of saw that with Russell Wilson and Nathaniel Hackett, now, of course, with Aaron Rodgers. But imagine going to work and just letting someone do everything else for you. It doesn't sound like a bad gig, except when things start to go badly. So when fellow coaches has asked Nathaniel Hackett why they were running certain plays, Hackett would reply, "That's what Aaron wants." I find that to be absolutely fascinating. ESPN ranked all 57 Super Bowl champions on Wednesday, and the Broncos have 3 Super Bowls parades in 1997, 1998, and 2015. So let's start at the bottom of the list, which to me, I found this one to be a little surprising. The 2015 Broncos with an all-time defense. You got Von Miller, DeMarcus Ware, the no-fly zone. How can we forget the no-fly zone? They come in at number 47 on the list. I just find that hard to believe at number 47 with one of the greatest defenses we talked about in comparison with the Bears defense comes in at number 47. Now the 1997 one comes in at number 19 and 1998 comes in at 10, best champion of all time. I find that list to be very fascinating. We have a whole article over at denversports.com if you are interested in checking that one out. And Russell Wilson jerseys are on sale 90% off. And I think that this is obviously super telling. People are obviously saying Russell Wilson's not going to be the quarterback of the Denver Broncos. Of course, we've all kind of known that for a while. But my question to the chat is, and I actually had posted this on my own personal social media. In what instance would you decide to go purchase a Russell Wilson jersey for 90% off? Here are some of the responses that I got that absolutely just cracked me up. A dartboard. Okay, that's a little harsh, but I can see your point. A Halloween costume. I got this one a few times, even when I asked people off social media. They said, "Oh, Halloween costume. It's an easy one." In hopes they would get another player named Wilson who wears number 3. I love the hope, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. And then the one that absolutely won by Michael Miller, to have Mace Denver call me out for an obscure jersey in 15 years. That one just made me laugh. Obviously, if you do not follow Mace over on social media, he always posts different social media player jerseys that he sees out at games. And sometimes the ones he finds are absolutely hilarious. So, hey, go buy it 90% off. It probably makes the jersey like $12 or whatever. And you can get yourself a Russell Wilson jersey to hopefully be on Mace's social channels in 10, 15 years, whatever it will be. On Wednesday, the Seahawks hired former Ravens defensive coordinator Mike McDonald, to a 6-year deal. What is with GMs hiring coaches for such long deals? I feel like half the time they don't work out, and it always drives me nuts. McDonald is 36 years old and will be the youngest head coach in the league, replacing 72-year-old Pete Carroll. That's a tough job to take because the Seahawks loved Pete Carroll so much. I feel like they all kind of bought behind him after the Russell Wilson trade and everything went down. It's a hard job to take on. I mean, the fan base loves a coach so much, but his Ravens defense finished number 1 in points, sacks, and turnovers last season. So I think it will be a good fit, and I'm excited to see what the future is going to look like. Now, Josh Allen, he's obviously not going to be playing in the Super Bowl this year, and he's also skipping the Pro Bowl games for a very relatable reason. He'd rather go golfing, and I don't blame him, to be completely honest with you. Would you rather go do something that's work-related, or would you rather go do something that's fun in the off-season? The Bills quarterback is expected to take part in this weekend's AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am after turning down the Pro Bowl invite. He may see Greg Penner out there, as he will also be there. It'll be Allen's 3rd straight year at Pebble Beach, and that opened up a spot for Colts quarterback Gardner Minshew on the Pro Bowl roster. Oh, MPJ, how I love MPJ. And he is so good on podcasts. I love that he has his own podcast. He's being featured on podcasts. And he did the Pivot podcast with ESPN's host, Ryan Clark. This is a fascinating interview. MPJ and Russ are talked about a lot because of their relationships. They're actually really good friends. And Ryan Clark goes on this kind of wild rant about the situation with Russell Wilson. He calls Sean Payton a turd, which I just thought was very interesting. There's like a serious discussion about being corny or not, and then also about faith. It was a fascinating watch, and I would definitely recommend going and listening. I think MPJ has a really good head on his shoulders, and I think that definitely, he talks about his injuries and how he was very faith-based in that, but also he talks about how there's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to rest. So I would highly recommend, hopefully after Denver Sports Daily, before coffee break at 12 p.m., go listen to that interview. Again, it's on the Pivot with Ryan Clark, and then MPJ. It's their latest episode. It's pretty good. Now, this next Mile High Minute is presented to you by Smashburger. No Jokic, just a few problems. Jokic was out with low back pain as the Nuggets took on OKC last night. Overall, it was a solid game from the Nuggets. They just could not get a rebound in the fourth quarter. Michael Malone actually ended up calling out his team in the post-game press conference, saying there was a lot of eyeball. They were just kind of standing around, not really going after the ball. They end up losing to OKC 105-100. There was a 22-2 run at the end of the game that absolutely killed them. But Aaron Gordon had a monster night last night. He was doing behind the back dunks. And Michael Malone goes on to say, I wanted that game a lot for our guys, but really for Aaron. 16 points, 1 for 3 from the 3-point line, 7 assists, 1 steal, 4 blocks. But you could really just see the impact that he had. The Thunder end up clinching the series over the Nuggets, which isn't great considering how close the Western Conference is being played out right now. And then the NBA on Wednesday expanded the 2024 draft into a 2-night event. The draft will split into first and second rounds on consecutive nights, June 26th and 27th, with the first round remaining at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. But then the second round is moving to ESPN's Seaport District Studios in Lower Manhattan. The first round will continue to have 5 minutes between picks, and the second round will expand from 2 minutes to 4 minutes. Now, you might be wondering, why would you add a second night? And according to ESPN, the reasons for the expansion of the event are the NBA and teams are hopeful that the hours between the first and second rounds will give more time to make trades and plan strategies for the second night. I find it to be a little interesting. I know a lot of people on social media were complaining, saying, hey, I really don't like this. I want it to just be all one night. I'm not interested in expanding it, but ESPN is hoping that it maybe can add a little bit more drama if teams can, make some trades and get in the headlines a little bit more. Last thing I got for you guys, the Minnesota Timberwolves may have won Monday night's game against the Oklahoma City Thunder, 107-101, but The victory did not stop Anthony Edwards, how could we all forget him, from criticizing the game's officials, calling them cheating blank refs, among with other things. And now he has to pay for it. The NBA on Wednesday slapped the Minnesota guard with a $40,000 fine for calling out the game's refs on the court and in post-game interviews. Anthony Edwards has not commented yet, but he did tell reporters after Monday's game that he anticipated getting a fine. I'm going to take the fine because the refs did not give them any good calls. So fascinating stuff over there. $40,000 fine. I'm like, yikes. We see, some of those 10, 12,000, but $40,000 mean the NBA is very serious. Love hanging out with you guys every single day. I want to check out some of your comments real quick. Let's see. Bum that Penix and Nix fell flat at the Senior Bowl. Seems like we'll be dumpster diving for QBs. Andrew Mason and Cecil Lammey are obviously out there at the Senior Bowl. They are posting tons of great content over on their social channels, also on denversports.com. So definitely take a listen. It is a little bit of a bummer that Penix and Nix are both falling a little bit flat. And of course, now that Michael Pratt's in the conversation, I did not expect that at all. Oh, RJ. Zach Wilson could come here. I don't know if I'm all on board for Zach Wilson. I think he has had his struggles with the Jets, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he's going to be the answers for the Denver Broncos at all. I need to complete my collection of Chad Bronco QB jerseys, Cutler, Locke, and Wilson. Well, 90% off. Go get your hands on a Russell Wilson jersey if you want to complete that trio right there. Let's see. One more. Does that mean my Wilson jersey is worth something? Or my Lindsey or my Tebow? I'm not buying any more jerseys until the player retires with Denver. I do recommend that. My last jersey that I purchased was an Emmanuel Sanders jersey, and I still have it. It's in my closet, but he left on kind of a good note, I would say. Philip Lindsay, hey, he's a good note. I would say you could probably send that over here to Denver Sports, and he may even sign it for you if you ask nicely. Tebow, I feel like, despite how he, left the Denver Broncos, I still feel like that's a fine one to wear. Wilson, though, I just think there's too much drama attached with that one. But I always love hanging out with you guys. Thank you so much for chilling with us. I'm going to be on 12 p.m. to be talking a little bit about the Nuggets and Broncos. Come hang out with us on Coffee Break. We'll see you guys later. Bye, everybody.